his philosophy and how his business emulates the empowering all theme of this year's event. Here at DCA, we embrace diversity and recognize that our differences make up the fabric of this department and this great state of California. Learning our differences empowers us to be more understanding, to tackle problems together, to think outside the box, and to work in an environment free of judgment and of bullying. I'll be the first to admit it takes time to get to a point of understanding. But events like the one here today and nationally are a step in the right direction. They bring awareness to topics that are not always top of mind. They challenge us to stop and think about what we have done, what we are doing, and what we can do better to help those with disabilities and our veterans. That's why today's event is so important. In designing today's event, we asked ourselves what would be one of the best ways to help those with disabilities. Two answers came to mind. One, help make the process of obtaining a state job easier. We recognize the complexity of getting a job with the state. It is why we have asked experts to explain the process and to help set up an account with CalCareers and even teach how to write a statement of qualifications that will open doors for you as an applicant. But we have also taken it a step further. We have invited our boards and bureaus to participate in today's career fair. So you can speak to potentially a hiring manager and ask questions about their specific openings. Take advantage of the opportunity and talk to everyone about what is needed to work at DCA or at ABC. We know veterans and individuals with disabilities often face challenges with finding and maintaining employment, and we hope to help address that challenge with today's career fair. The second answer was one that we can work on year-round. We need to create an environment where everyone thrives. We know working in an environment free of judgment and bullying enhances the work of everyone and allows us as a department to grow and to do things we never thought we could do. That is why I challenge us all here today to just be kind. Be kind to one another and recognize our differences. Respect everyone's opinions, value the work and contributions of those around you, empower yourself and others to be the best version of yourself, that you can be. When we stop and look for our similarities versus our differences, we can begin to respect one another and grow as individuals. I commit as director of this department to empower us all to be kind and to create an environment free of judgment and bullying, and to recognize the contributions of veterans, individuals with disabilities, and of everyone. I look forward to hearing from the rest of our speakers. As I wrap up today, I leave you with this. Celebrating diversity shouldn't be limited to only 1 month, because despite our differences, we are always able to come together to embrace who we are, no matter what our race, religion, gender, sexual orientation, age, nationality, or disability may be. It's what makes us special. Thank you very much.
Now we have some remarks from the ABC Director, Jacob Applesmith.
All right. This to me is really about human potential, and that's what disability rights are about, right? So that everyone can give as much of themselves as their natural abilities have. We shouldn't have barriers to stop them from those gifts, because we don't profit, they don't profit, and society is held back. When I was a kid, from the time I was a little kid, my dad was in a wheelchair, and this was Berkeley in the 1970s, a place where the Center for Independent Living was founded. But even in Berkeley, my father basically could not go anywhere unless I hauled him around, right? So I'd take him to the Oakland Arena, and I used to sometimes have to put him in a fireman's hold and take him up the steps. Now, I didn't mind that at the time because I kind of got to show off a little bit and show that I was actually big and strong, which is part of the reasons why I have such a terrible lower back today. But that said, he shouldn't have had to do that, right? And as we've changed in the world, he wouldn't have to do that anymore, right? They have wheelchair seating. They have accommodations they make for people just like they make in the workplace. The reason he was able to have a job was because he was, at the time, kind of lucky. He had a boss who believed in him, who made it easy for him, and had a workplace he could actually access. But he didn't have a right to that, and he might not have been so fortunate in another setting. So fast forward, I used to work for the Attorney General, and I was the advisor for employment law and equal employment opportunity rights. And one of the most important things we did was access for employees with disabilities, ensuring that they had a fair place to work, a respectful place to work. But even in the years since I started doing that in the mid-1990s, attitudes really have changed. And as far as we've got to go, that's a pretty great thing, right? Back then, a lot of people thought it was sort of expensive to do all these things for employees who had disabilities. Is it really worth it? It was just really kind of a culture change that needed to happen and that really has happened. So where do we have to go from here? We still have a fair way to go, I think, because we experience a lot of implicit bias in all aspects of employment. But at least we are getting to the point now where we're going in with an assumption that people should be able to do the job as long as we can reasonably accommodate them. Right? And that's just a wonderful thing. Think about all the people you work with today who have big screens or need a wider door for a restroom or whatever it is, or the things that we really don't know about, who wouldn't be in our workplace but yet come and do a great job every single day. We would be poorer without them, and they certainly would be themselves, right? So let's celebrate this. Let's remember that we've done a lot of great things. We still have more to do. And events like this are really something that helps us get there. So again, thanks so much. This is fabulous. It's good to see all of you, and I look forward to the rest of the program. Thanks.
Thank you, Doctor. And now we have some presenters from the Contractor State License Board to show a brief presentation on how to set up a Cal Career account.
Hello. Thank you to the director. Thank you to the Disability Advisory Committee for allowing us to be here today to present for you. Creating a Cal Career account is beneficial to both those who have state careers already, as well as those who are looking to start a state career. This presentation is going to break down basically how to create a Cal Career account and what the benefits of Cal Career account is. Okay, so first things first, you're going to want to go to jobs.ca.gov. This is going to be the landing page for you. Next thing, basically it's going to show you all the different aspects of what a state career is going to entail. So you're going to have what career development there is, what type of benefits there are, and you can also search for job positions as well as exams. We're going to get to those in the later slides. So once you click the create account and login on the top right, this is going to be the landing page for you. And if you previously had a state career account and you just don't know if you had one or not, feel free to do the forget user password. And if you had a valid email address, then you're going to be able to basically start where you left off before. But for many of you, even those who have state jobs currently and you're looking to promote, you can create an account right there on the left-hand side where the arrow is. So the next step is you're going to enter in all of your pertinent information in the required fields. Please do note that there are password and user ID restrictions, and just adhere to those. Once you enter in all of your information, And if it is good to go, if you meet all the requirements for the password and the user ID, then you're going to see the next step. Before we get to the next step, I just wanted to break down some of the advantages of having a CalCareer account. Like I said, it is beneficial to those who have a state job already and they're looking to promote, as well as those who are looking to enter in with the state employment. The biggest thing is you're able to apply for job vacancies online, so it kind of takes away the need to print all your materials if you don't have access to that. If you previously had to mail in everything, so if you're mailing more than one position, then it could get a little costly for you as well. And the biggest thing is it goes directly to the hiring manager. So the need of, well, I sent this in 3 weeks ago, did they get it? That's gone, because you're going to get an email right away that your application was received. Another advantage is that you receive contact letters electronically. So this allows you to, if there is a position that you're interested in, it gives you the most amount of time to apply for a job, to get your job application, your package ready. You can also set up job notifications for opportunities. So if, for example, we have specialized classifications with CSLB, our enforcement representative classification. So anytime, statewide one of those comes up, and if you're interested in it, you're going to get a notification right away. I think the biggest thing is uploading and storing up to 3 applications. So as you may know, with the state, there's different classifications, and each one kind of entails different job abilities and skills that you need. So this is going to allow you to fine-tune your skills to that classification. For example, staff services analyst, you can have one of those applications. For enforcement, as well as maybe contracts or business services. And then you can have an office technician one, as well as a program technician, or whatever the classification might be. So it allows you to kind of fine tune those different, tailor those to the job position that you're actually interested in. You're also able to view your eligibility status. So when you take an exam, you're going to get on a list if you pass. There's no need to remember, because they all have expiration dates, when that expiration date was. Did I take that at a certain time? If I apply for a position and I'm not eligible, that kind of thing. So it's going to really allow you to kind of store all that information in one. And also, last but not least, the ability to participate in LEAP examinations. Ingrid is going to go through those a little bit later. So once you create your account, sorry about that. Once you create your account, this is going to be the page that you're going to see. Like I said, this is going to be kind of your landing page. You're going to be able to update your information in case you move, in case you get a new phone number, a new email address. You're going to be able to update all those. This is also going to be where the application templates are going to be, those 3 that I mentioned previously. You're going to be able to upload, like I said, all your information, and as well as view your exam results that I just mentioned. So the next step is to take the state exam, right? So you have to be on a list to be able to be appointed to a position. So you're going to be able to search through the CalCareer account while still logged in. So you can search by keyword. You can search by the department. Of course, I have DCA in there. And then once you have everything that you need, you're going to hit the search button. So then at this page, you're going to see all the different classifications that I put in technician. This is the page that it came up. So we're just going to use program technician for this slide. So you're going to see the different, program technician, final filing date, which we're going to talk about a little later, and as well as the view exam posting. So once you click that, this is going to be the bulletin, the job bulletin. So you're going to have all the information about the class description. So if you were to be selected for this position, what kind of duties you will be performing. You're also going to be able to see the final filing date. So some have very strict, they're only doing it twice a year. So you want to be able to get in before that final filing date to be able to take the exam. It's going to have the official exam bulletin link that you're going to click on once you're ready to take the exam. There's also going to be the requirements that are needed to be able to take the exam. So if it's a 4-year degree, if it's a year of office experience, you're going to be able to find all that in the class or in the requirements. And then it's also going to tell you what type of exam it is. If it's written, if you actually have to make an appointment to take a hard copy exam, or if it's an online self-assessment exam. And then it's also going to show you the eligibility list information. And now Ingrid's going to tell you a little bit more about LEAP.
Thank you. I'll use this one. So, the Limited Examination and Appointment Program is designed to help people with disabilities become employed in the California State Civil Service. And it also allows applicants to demonstrate their skills and abilities and knowledge during the job examination period. For those who do not know, for 2 years now, the job examination period coincides with the probation period. Those wishing to utilize the LEAP program must meet the disability criteria set out in the California Fair Housing and Employment Act. So you must have a physical or mental impairment or medical condition that limits one or more major life activities. You have a record or history of such impairment or medical condition, or you must be regarded as having such impairment or medical condition. In order to get LEAP certified, you must create a CalCareer account, as my coworker Alex described to you earlier, and you must take your disability documentation to the Department of Rehabilitation office together with your photo ID. Make sure that you contact them before you actually go to their local office. So now, having been certified, you will be able to take the examinations that you qualify for, and using your State Career account, you will be able to search for job vacancies. If you are interested in applying for the LEAP program, you are also able to get more information from CalHR, who offers lunchtime seminars, and they focus on the state civil service hiring process and LEAP process, as well as transition from military service to state service and LEAP. Thank you.
So we have one more preliminary presentation before the main event. And so I'd like to have Dennis Enke come up. He's a presenter from DCA's Solid Training Solutions, and he'll give you some tips about how to do a qualification or a statement of qualifications.
All right, so some of the ideas are we teach a class on. Oh, no. Is that better? Work? Yep. I just need to yell louder. So we teach a class growing in your state career, and we also teach a class standing out in a crowded job market. Those classes are taught about once a month, so if you're with DCA, definitely sign up for those. I'm going to give you the highlights in 10 minutes or so. The first part is your statement of qualification is an overall part of your application package, meaning you have your application, your statement of qualifications, and potentially a resume. The tips I'm going to share are good for your statement of qualifications, but they also can apply to your application and your resume. And the first place to start is listing all your skills. We encourage people in the class to list at least 25 skills that they have. It could be anything from mailroom stuff to writing, to editing, to proofreading, to public speaking, to teaching, whatever it might be. Include things that you volunteered for, that you've been paid to do, or even things that might even be hobbies like art, writing, whatever it might be. And the idea is you get all your skills listed, at least 25 hopefully, and then you put an A, B, or C next to each one. And A is for things you really love, you really enjoy it, and you'd love to do this as part of a job. That's why you want to list some of your hobbies or things that you enjoy, because if you can incorporate those into a job and get paid for it, all the more merrier. And then you want to next go with B's. What are things you can do? Don't really enjoy them, but you don't dislike them either. And then C is maybe that you have the skill, but as your career goes on, it's not a skill you need to do anymore. So maybe I used to work in the mailroom, alphabetizing things. I'm not really good at it. And now I've got other skills that I can use that I don't have to play up that one as much as I might have in my earlier career. Once you have that list, maybe go around asking your friends, family, whoever else you know, hey, what other skills that you might have noticed that I have? Because then they can help you add to it. And then the idea is, once you have that list of all your skills, then when you see a duty statement for a job in the state that you'd like to apply for, every job has a duty statement, and you'll see it online. Download the duty statement, and then our suggestion is, whenever you apply for a job, you probably won't have 100% of the experience they're asking for, because usually nobody does, especially if it's a promotion. But what you do want to do is you want to outline, what do you have experience doing, what do you have knowledge about, and what are you motivated to do? And then go through that duty statement, and next to each thing they're asking for, put a E for things you have experience with, put a K through those things you have knowledge for, and an M for what you're motivated. So that when you write your statement of qualification, you can say, I have experience doing these things. I'm knowledgeable about, say, legislation. And then those things where you don't have the experience and you may not even have the knowledge, you can put how you're motivated to. Because a lot of people hire people not only for the skills, but more importantly for their attitude and their motivation to want to do something. So when you're up against two candidates and one person is talking about their motivation, their attitude, and their happiness to do the job, that might be what it takes to get you over the edge to get the interview. Once you have your duty statement all outlined, that's when it comes time to start writing out your statement of qualifications. And really, you should plan about 2 or 3 hours to write that draft of a statement of qualifications. But then you might want to add another hour or two, because we're really big in recommending people find proofreaders to review your statement of qualifications, and ideally find proofreaders to review your application and even your resume. And you're asking people to look at, does it make sense? Does every sentence stand on its own? Are there any typos, grammar issues, that kind of thing? When someone reads your statement of qualifications and they start to have questions about it, it's really important to be open and accept criticism. My thing is, we encourage people, whatever anybody says, good or bad, whether you agree with it or disagree with it, simply thank them. Thanks for your input. I really appreciate it. Take the advice that you like, ignore the advice that you don't. But you don't want to get defensive, because when you send in a statement of qualifications, you won't be able to explain anything. They're just going to look at the paper and summarize what they see, so make sure it's pretty explanatory. If you make that list of skills, or you look at job duty statements and you're thinking, boy, I do need a little more knowledge, or I do need a little more experience, DCA offers analyst certification training classes, ACT classes. We have some brochures on the table out in the breezeways that you can pick up. And essentially what those are is for people who are not in an analyst classification. It's classes that will help you get a certificate and be able to say, I have taken the classes. And their presentation skills for analysts, there's analyst type classes and Excel, different classes on there, so that you'll at least have the now knowledge, so you can say, I didn't have the experience, I didn't have the knowledge, I took these classes, now I have the knowledge coupled with the motivation can be what puts you over the edge to get the job. We also have Are You Ready to Lead classes for people who are in the analyst classification looking to move up into management. So we have 2 Are You Ready to Lead classes. And then the last thing to consider is finding mentors. Who do you know, whether anywhere in the community, at work, friends outside of work, church groups, volunteer groups that you might do, and find out who could be a mentor, who can help you get to the next level in your career, wherever that might be. Also, too, reading the business pages, or I say business pages newspaper, but online, reading whether it's New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Sacramento Bees. There are a lot of good articles just about working in the workplace and different ideas and attitudes, that reading those just when you're scanning through the news can pick up pretty good bits of information. And then also lastly, the tip we usually recommend is read about successful people. Who are successful people that are similar to you, just brainstorm who they might be, and then you could just go Google them and find out how did they get to where they got to be. So that's my summary for the statement of qualifications.
Thank you, Dennis. I just wanted to do a quick clarification. We're giving these presentations on how to create a Cal account and how to do a effective statement of qualifications, not because we want you to leave, because we have a lot of DCA employees here, and we just want to clarify, we care about you individually. We are a DCA family, and I'm sure ABC agrees with them as well. We care deeply about your individual growth, and we want to show you how you can do that within the DCA family. So with that, I'd like to introduce Andy Foster from the California State Athletic Commission. Andy.
Good morning. I was told that I'm going to be introducing Uriah Faber. So I thought about, well, what's the best way for this particular event to kind of convey what I know about Uriah and kind of see how this is relevant to today's meeting. And this is what I can tell you about Uriah. As the executive officer, I have a unique perspective on a lot of different athletes, and I'm able to go around and see how they interact. What I can tell you about Uriah Faber is Uriah is the same. He'll be the same up here, he'll be the same over there, and he'll be the same at the gym. He's the same guy. Everybody else has there's a lot of fighters that have a different persona in the media, and then you get them in the locker room and they're a different person. This guy's the same guy. And I think for this particular for this particular setting, this is very appropriate. Uriah was kind of a forerunner. He was the pioneer of these lighter weight classes in the UFC. Okay, he did a lot of the big stuff in the WEC, and then when they got bought out, the UFC kind of did these lighter divisions. With some degree of people weren't sure if they were going to take off. Well, they took off, and he's a draw. People know about the California Kid. Okay. Not being somebody who was born and raised here, I watched you come up, and he represented to me everything good about California. He's an inclusive guy. He's a friendly person, and for this particular setting, when I think of Uriah Faber, as I see him and I interact with him and I watch him, one thing comes out. That guy treats other people the way he'd like to be treated. And I think that's a good attribute for any human being. It's my privilege to welcome the California Kid, Uriah Faber.
What's up, folks? Thanks for having me. I think, what an awesome month to celebrate. People being different. That's, what makes us human. Disabilities are obviously something that's real, and some are a lot more intense and a lot more debilitating than others. But, I'm sure if you look around, everybody can find something and call it a disability. It's a little bit about interpretation. You could spin it however you want it, I guess. I could be disabled for being a little too short. Andy could be disabled for not having enough hair. Or it could be a big advantage. I'm quick and nimble, can duck under things that might be flying through the air. A lot easier than a bigger guy, and Andy may have to spend less time, combing that hair. But on a real note, disabilities are something that are very prevalent in my life, and there's a lot of different types. Some that you're born with, some that you acquire over time, and humans in general, we're very social people, and we like to contribute to society. We like to, be part of something. There's studies. I was a human development major at UC Davis, and they talk about, groups of people that had a real sense of belonging and how much happier they were. Part of community, them against us kind of communities were sometimes the most prestigious communities because they knew who were their people and that they were part of something. And that's it's an important thing. And for me, on my own level of experience with disabilities, my grandmother's legally deaf. She has been since she's 4 years old. A lot of people don't know that. She's a hard worker. She's got 2 jobs. She's 83 years old. She works at Ross for 25 years, and she has her own cleaning business with Alfredo Torres, her husband, who's 17 years younger than her, and and a stud. My brother had a nervous breakdown, and when he was 21 years old, my little sister was in a car accident, had her skull crushed. My father had a stroke when he was 46 years old. And then teammates of mine. We've got a guy, Mikhail Venikoff, who he looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger. You wouldn't know that the guy has been through some stuff, but he's a PTSD survivor. He's somebody that was in war, the toughest time of war, and saw some nasty things. And he told me, he said, they say I have PTSD, but again, like about interpretation, he's like, I don't see it, but I was diagnosed with it. He started a nonprofit organization called Ranger Road, and they create all sorts of awesome events, whether it be workouts at the gym or parachuting events at the, in Davis for these guys to get a little bit of a cool experience, but they also are a part of something. Guys that are, multiple amputees and have, half their bodies blown up and things like this. His whole purpose is just inclusion. It's basically, these are guys that have been a part of something, a part of a team. They've had a purpose. That purpose being, at the time, defending a country and something that we believe in very strong, and a lot of times come back from that damaged or broken and are kind of left on their own. So that's a really cool thing that I get to be a part of, and an experience on a level of including some folks that need that are used to that, and have some disabilities. But my own story, which is can be super inspiring if you look at it like that. Started out in 2003 as a college graduate, and starting in a sport like Andy spoke about, where there wasn't a clear path, just like there's not a clear path for a lot of the disabled folks out there. It was a time in a sport where there wasn't a weight class for me. The lightest weight class was 170 pounds in the UFC. For those who know about the UFC, it's the Ultimate Fighting Championship. And the sport was actually legal in California. It wasn't legalized till 2005, so the only place that I could do a fight or a competition was on an Indian reservation, where they have their sovereign land. They get to make their own rules, and I'd always been a guy that had the right intentions and worked really hard, and I believed in myself and was somebody that thought big. When I grew up in Lincoln, as a high schooler, I was, one of the top wrestlers and football players on the team, and I was always working really hard to be very good. But a lot of times I didn't have a plan, and I didn't have a big enough vision, and I would do things like go on. I ran to school one time at 4:30 in the morning and got to school a couple hours early because I hadn't planned correctly, and carrying all my clothes because I didn't realize I would get so hot. I just knew it was a long ways to go, and that it was going to take a long time. It ended up being like 10 or 11 miles. At the time, I was pretty fast. It didn't take me that long, so I didn't need to leave at 4:30 in the morning. I didn't have to wear 3 pairs of pants and long johns because it was cold at the beginning, but about 5 minutes into it, I was pretty hot. And, I served a purpose, which was to do something that was going to make me better and something that was going to give me an edge, but it wasn't the smartest way of going about it. And I didn't really know what the bigger purpose was. I had some goals, and those goals for me were to go to the state tournament. But I was working hard. I was working just as hard as everyone else. Why was it not to place in the state tournament? Why was it not to be a state champion? I don't know why I wasn't thinking what I'm going to do is going to result in being a champion. But a lot of times we're scared to think too big, to set a goal too high, even if it's just, having a consistent job. And I've learned my lesson throughout time. When I went through college, I was a walk-on on the team. 3 of the 4 people that had beat me in my senior year in high school were actually on my team. And I was doing extra in the summers. I was going to wrestling camps, and I was running sprints, and I had done the practices at the junior college because I was preparing and thinking everybody was working as hard as I was. But by the time I got to college, that extra time that I put in, even in the summer, had bypassed the 3 guys that beat me. I ended up beating our team captain that year and earning myself a scholarship, and went on to set some records at UC Davis as an athlete, and that led into my fight career. Again, though, at UC Davis when I was competing, it was about hard work, and it was kind of like that run that I went on in high school. I knew I wanted to do something. I wanted to be intelligent about it. I wanted to be the best, but I didn't really have a plan. I didn't write down, and I wrote down a lot of goals. It was beat all the guys on my team, place in the Pac-10, get to the national tournament, which were all big things, were awesome things to think about. But what I didn't do was write down, again, like in high school, to be a champion. I don't know if it was afraid to think that big, or I just couldn't fathom actually being a national champion. But I wrote down to be top 8 in the country, and I worked as hard as I possibly could physically, and I was listening to everyone and doing the right things. But the thought process was the issue. It was, why am I not writing down I want to be a champion? Why am I not preparing all my hard work to be a champion? And the difference was, and I had a good career that in college. I set the record for UC Davis in most wins. I went to the national tournament a couple times. The best I got was top 12, and I put in a lot of great effort for that, and I made gains in a short amount of time by being calculated. But for me, it was strange that I didn't write down to be a champion. So fast forward into graduating college and becoming an athlete for the first time in a sport where it was illegal in California. There was no weight class for me at the highest weight class. I was literally about three weight classes off from the highest weight class in the UFC. But yet, in my mind, I was going to be a champion at the highest level. It didn't exist. It was illegal. There was no weight class for me. There's no championship in my weight class. It was illegal in California. But I decided this is how I'm going to make my career, which is a little far-fetched and a little bit crazy. But sometimes you have to, set those kind of goals that are going to put you in a position where you're uncomfortable saying it, but, you got to make it happen. So, this whole process of thinking big and not having things perfectly laid out is something that we all face, and it's a real individual thing, what your disability is. It may be something that you want everybody to know about. Sometimes, it's an internal thing. I've seen people that have, anxiety, and they have issues that you wouldn't know unless you speak to them about it or you see them in that situation. And there's other type of disabilities where it's pretty open. I've got Devin Johnson, who's a former fighter of mine, who's, you know, paralyzed, and, you know, his path to conquering the world was about creativity after that. It was staying really positive, and he now has a company called My Fuse Fit, where he's, you know, providing personal trainers for folks that need special means. And that was for him just an answer to his own problem and a way for him to make a living. And he's just about to graduate at Sac State right now, and he's got a complete different outlook on life. He doesn't want to be a champion fighter now. He's in a wheelchair, but he's making power moves, and for me, that's inspiring. So, you know, I think from a standpoint of inclusion, as humans, we like to be part of something. If you ask a parent how their kid's doing, no matter what the you know, disability or the age or whatever, they give you a rundown of what they're up to. A lot of times that includes work. Oh, they're working here, or they're doing this, or they just, you know, this is what they're doing. There's this sense of pride about contributing to society, and we as individuals that have businesses or are within companies and can give someone a chance, it's awesome. You know, it's an awesome opportunity to change lives. And for you folks that may have a disability out there, you know, set your goals high. Think big. You know, I wasn't necessarily a you know, somebody with a bright future in the fight game when it first started. It wasn't a reality at all, actually. It was illegal in California. It wasn't in the biggest organization. And at the time, if you know UFC now, there's probably 50, 60 events a year. At the time, there was 3 events a year. And the highest paid guys, even though they were superheroes because I was into it and I was watching them, were getting paid $150,000 or something like that. And that was the world championship, the best in the world and the toughest sport in the world. There's only 3 shows a year. So, you know, my path to becoming a professional fighter and then a successful professional fighter and then somebody that could make a living doing it was a tough one. But it took some vision, and it took thinking outside the box, and it took not taking no for an answer, and sometimes putting yourself out there. It's not easy to make statements or to try to do things when people doubt you, but you got to do that. So that's kind of my my overall ideology about this month celebrating disabilities. You know, make sure that you don't let disability stop you, and everyone else give folks with disabilities a chance.
All right, so we have some closing remarks from our own agency secretary, Business and Consumer Services and Housing Agency, Alexa Podesta. So you come up.
All right. Can everybody hear me? Cool. Good morning, or almost good afternoon. As you just heard, I'm Alexis Podesta, and I'm the Secretary of the Business Consumer Services and Housing Agency. A special thank you to Dean, your director, for pulling this together, and it's good to see you, Jacob and Andy. So thank you all for being here. Yes. So, and also a very special thank you to Mr. Faber, who has taken the time out of his busy schedule to come share his story with all of us. So I think you've heard about focus and discipline and thinking outside the box and finding that drive to push forward. I also think you've heard about how to get a job with the state. Sounds like you need quite a long list of statement of qualifications. Probably a good thing that I'm a political appointee and don't have to fill that out. So more power to all of you who go through that process. So I want to shift the focus just a little bit. There are very few of us in our jobs that can claim success independently. By and large, we're all part of a team or an organization, and we need each other to achieve success in our jobs, whether that's day-to-day or on a project. I would guess even Mr. Faber would credit some of his success to the team he works with day in and day out, even though he is in that octagon himself doing what he does. So my philosophy on this is that the best employees are empowered employees. And the best way to empower an employee is through a respectful workplace. So I've been digging in. Folks on my team have had to endure trainings and talks on this topic as of late. Some of our directors have heard my staff give a little talk about it as well. But I came across a study that Google recently did of what makes its teams successful. So Google studied 180 teams and conducted more than 200 interviews. And total typical Google thoroughness, they researched 250 team attributes, right? So you think about the drills you do here. This is like on a new scale of magnitude, totally Googleized. And what they found was a little bit surprising. So they had poor teams with great leaders and great teams with leaders whose leadership skills were only so-so. And what made teams successful more than anything else was the psychological safety of team members. That meant the freedom to take risks, ask questions, offer opinions, and know that they were respected for doing so. In other words, they were empowered because they were in a respectful workforce. Respectful workplaces lead to better performing employees. And for us, that ensures we're serving the people of California more productively. Respectful workplaces also prevent a whole host of problems from happening. Problems like discrimination or harassment or abusive bullying behavior. Think about it. It's really not that big of a stretch to come to work every day and treat everybody with respect. Just like the old saying, like you would want to be treated. Basic decency and kindness. And unfortunately, we've entered a space at work where if it's not against the law, meaning you don't have to take a sexual harassment training to know what's right or wrong, you don't have to take an ethics training to know what's right or wrong, it's okay to do. And it's not. It's okay to be respectful to your employees and your bosses, your team. So the theme of National Disability Employment Awareness Month is empowering all, and I believe we do that by being respectful. So I've challenged my department directors, two of them are here today, to empower their employees, and I encourage you to empower your employees, whether they're disabled or veterans or people just beginning their careers or people who have been here for a very long time and may need a breath of fresh air. Let's empower everybody by ensuring that our workplaces are respectful. And when you think about it, respectful workplaces are kind of contagious. The qualities they bring out in employees, like positive attitudes and the willingness to tackle and overcome challenges, become contagious too. So thank you.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I know that a lot of you are eager to have a picture taken or get an autograph, and so Mr. Faber has a few more minutes for us. If you want to form a line on the right side of the room, and we'll bring you up one at a time, come through the behind of the dais and exit out the other side. We can start that now.